They have embarrassed themselves once again in Washington, D.C. The last impeachment was phony and a great big hoax. This is even phonier. Just a little while ago, they pulled it off. Nancy did, impeaching the president of the United States when he has just 1 week left on the job. Talk about presidential harassment. They're blaming him for the riot last week, saying that he incited the whole thing. Here's the deal, though. There is overwhelming, totally convincing evidence that he did nothing wrong. They choose to ignore it or lie about it. But here is Exhibit A, again from last Wednesday, when he was speaking to a very peaceful assembly of Trump supporters.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
That's it. He did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. We know that things went south on Capitol Hill, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But let's give you some highlights from today, because if you're a normal person, you weren't watching television all day long, because this impeachment is in many ways meaningless, kind of like the last one. I'll get to that in a second. But there's one Congressman, LaMalfa is his name, from California, a Republican, and I thought he was great. Check this out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second annual impeachment show extravaganza, brought to you by the censors and left-wing media, the fact-checked ministers of shutdown and big tech, and the Democrat Party. Today, the second annual impeachment of President Trump isn't really about actual words spoken out of rally. No, this is all about, Madam Speaker, the unbridled hatred of this president. You use any extreme language and any process to oppose the core of what he has really fought for. You hate him because he is pro-life, strongest ever. You hate him for fighting for the freedom of our religions to not be persecuted by unfair mandates and limitations on speech. You hate him for not subscribing and shackling us with the religion of climate change and one-sided Paris Accords. You hate him for Israel. You hate him for defending our borders. You hate him for letting families and small businesses keep what they earn, for trying to keep the agents of government off their back. You hate him for putting America first, which is what I thought we do when we swear the oath. No, this shabby show isn't about a threat to our republic. This is the impeachment and muting of at least half of the American people. This is shameful and abuse of a process.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from New York.
The gentleman additional 20 seconds.
The gentleman from Ohio yields you
Madam
another
Speaker,
20 seconds. 30.
I pray people of all stripes wake up to this spectacle and exercise their rights to put a stop to it through free speech and through fair elections. I yield back.
He was terrific, and he's got his mask on, so I want to show you a picture of him. Again, this is Doug LaMalfa, Republican from California, and he was excellent, excellent today. And so was freshman Congresswoman Lauren Boebert from Colorado.
Glory to God. Madam Speaker, I rise today to oppose this impeachment and denounce the recent violence on the Capitol, just as I oppose the previous impeachment and the violence we've all witnessed all summer long across our great country. Make no mistake here, the hypocrisy of the left is on full display. Quote, go to the Hill, get in the face of some Congress people. We've got to fight in Congress, fight in the courts, fight in the streets. Take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Go and take Trump out tonight. Sound familiar? What about the gentlewoman from New York who defended the looting by saying looters just wanted loaves of bread? Well, the last I checked, Best Buy and Teslas and stores of the like do not produce baked goods. Where's the accountability for the left after encouraging and normalizing violence? Rather than actually helping American people in this time, we start impeachments that further divide our country. I call bullcrap when I hear the Democrats demanding unity. Sadly, they are only unified in hate.
Expired.
Okay, apparently bullcrap was a little bit too much for them to handle, but she was fantastic. Lauren Boebert, again with the mask. I want to show you her, freshman from Colorado. Brand new on the scene, but she's going to be here for a while. Now, in fairness, I'm going to show you something from the other side. This is Jerry Nadler. Sorry to say this, he's my congressman. Here it goes.
President Trump, who incited this riot and who remains a grave danger to the nation. As we warned the Senate when we tried him for his first impeachment, President Trump has made clear in word and deed that he will persist in such conduct if he is not removed from power.
All right. Well, I showed you what the other members of Congress look like. Get ready. Here's Jerry Nadler when he's at a parade. There he is. All right. So, members of Congress, you know the ones I like, but they wonder why they're so unpopular. Only 15% of the American people approve of the job they're doing. 82% disapprove. A recent public opinion poll shows President Trump at 49%, up slightly since last week. Isn't that something? All right. Now, it could be a little bit dicey because Mitch McConnell, longtime member of the swamp, majority leader in the Senate, is making noise that somehow he wants this impeachment trial to happen soon, and we're not exactly sure how he's going to vote. Mitch McConnell, huh? Mitch ought to do the right thing. I believe the president was very good to Mitch McConnell and also good to his wife, Elaine Chao, giving her a cabinet job. I actually remember this shout out at the State of the Union last January.
Working with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Thank you, Mitch.
See that little smile? Mitch was touched. I heard that they had a decent working relationship behind the scenes, but you know, since it looks like Donald Trump is no longer president as of January 20th, Mitch is thinking about Mitch and thinking about the swamp. And here's what I think is really happening, actually. They want to hurt Donald Trump for 2024. They want to cancel him so there's no chance of him coming back. And also, you may remember that Ted Cruz was talking about a 10-day audit of the election, wasn't he? Just a few days ago. Listen to this.
This Congress appointed an electoral commission to examine claims of voter fraud. 5 House members, 5 senators, 5 Supreme Court justices examined the evidence and rendered a judgment. And what I would urge of this body is that we do the same, that we appoint an electoral commission to conduct a 10-day emergency audit, consider the evidence, and resolve the claims.
Wouldn't that have been great? I hear one of the reasons why impeachment is such a priority right now is that there are folks on both sides who don't want any kind of audit of this election. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Ultimately, though, this impeachment, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Historically, it will be an embarrassment for those who voted for it. But think about the last impeachment. Did that change your opinion of Donald Trump? It didn't change mine. And the stars of impeachment, where are they now? Do you remember this guy? Lieutenant Colonel Vindman? Everybody made such a big deal. We hung on his every word for 3 days. Where is he now? He's out of uniform. He's at home somewhere trying to get a job. There's Lieutenant Colonel Vindman. This stuff just kind of fades away. Does anybody talk about impeachment? Did they talk about it during the campaign? No, this stuff kind of fades away. Now, right now, I understand we're still talking about what happened last week, the riot. We didn't need picket lines outside. We didn't have to be cajoled into saying the right thing. And it was obvious that it was wrong. Too often, on the other side of the political spectrum, violence is, it depends what you're being violent about. Let's take a little quiz. Let's look at some images. What went right with the election? Maybe people wouldn't have felt so frustrated to make the trip all the way to Washington, D.C. Maybe they were sick of seeing reports like this every single day for 2 months. They just kind of sat at their desks and at their computers looking for the information they wanted, telling each other no problems with this election. There were grave, big-time problems. We talked yesterday about the situation in Pennsylvania. We went into detail. That alone, which is still before the Supreme Court, by the way, still before the Supreme Court. Again, what happened on the Capitol never should have happened. But if some of these things were explored for weeks and months ahead of time, if you're going to put all this on President Trump, well, what about your responsibility to talk about what the American people are concerned about? I'm talking to the media right now. All right, now I'm talking back to you, the audience, because if you really want to know why Donald Trump, why they hate him so much, I think it's encapsulated in this clip. Why they, meaning the swamp and the media, why they hate him so much. And this is part of the reason why we like him so much. The very first moments that he was president, back on January 20th of 2017, this is how he got things started. How do you think that made the establishment feel? It made them feel threatened, big time. You think they were comfortable at that moment? Not at all. Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, I think they were very, very uneasy. And I believe that so many levels of government did everything they could to thwart this president. Because stirring up the system, going to Washington and making things happen, that's just a bunch of junk you're supposed to say in your campaign speeches. Nobody expects you to actually follow up on that. Just listen to Jeb Bush. He tried to pull it off.
We need a president willing to challenge and disrupt the whole culture in our nation's capital.
Jeb Bush, son of a president, brother of a president, said he was going to go to Washington to change the whole culture of the Capitol. Of course, he couldn't, and nobody believed him. And that's why he fell flat on his face as a candidate. That's why the Bushes are doing everything they can to hurt Donald Trump. All right, so unfortunately, we know now that Donald Trump will not be president after next Wednesday at noon. Yeah, it's a week from today. I do want to talk a little bit more about his legacy. Yesterday, we talked about ISIS. Today, his judicial legacy. He got 3 very conservative appointees onto the Supreme Court. Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. 3 in just 4 years. You know how unusual that is? Obama, 8 years in office, 2. I think the same for George W. Bush and Clinton. 3 in 4 years, that's extraordinary. Yes, he was the beneficiary of an opportunity, but he made it happen. He made some extraordinarily beautiful picks, in my opinion. And he got well over 200 federal justices or judges onto lower courts. It's a massive, massive accomplishment, and that is one heck of a legacy, ladies and gentlemen, believe me. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a superstar in Congress, and she has a major announcement coming our way. We have no idea what it's about, but it is supposed to be very, very big. Stay with us, please.
I am against the impeachment effort by the Democrats. President Trump has held over 600 rallies in the last 4 years. None of them included assaulting police, destroying businesses, or burning down cities. Democrats have spent all this time endorsing and enabling violent riots that left billions in property damage and 47 dead across the United States. Democrats' impeachment of President Trump today has now set the standard that they should be removed for their support of violence against the American people.
Well done, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican of Georgia, just been on the job for about a week or so, and there she was defending the president. She's back with us tonight. Welcome back. You were on last night. Big hit, by the way. Welcome, Congresswoman. How do you feel about today, first of all?
Well, I'm absolutely disgusted with what happened today. What the Democrats are putting the American people through is atrocious. It's a waste of our taxpayer dollars. And they're pouring salt in the wounds of 75 million Americans who voted for President Trump. This is not why I wanted to come to Washington. I wanted to actually work on real problems. But it's apparent that we definitely have real problems now, Greg. And this is why I wanted to come on your show tonight. I'm tired of Republicans that lay down and allow this country to be ravaged, allow Democrats to abuse their power and their positions. And I believe it's time for Republicans to stand up for the American people and do a good job in Congress.
Very well. And yes, 10 or so Republicans did this as well. We'll have more on that in a bit. Congresswoman, I understand, though, you have something pressing, something important, and something new you'd like to share with everybody.
Yes, I would like to announce on behalf of the American people, we have to make sure that our leaders are held accountable. We cannot have a president of the United States that is willing to abuse the power of the office of the presidency and be easily bought off by foreign governments, foreign Chinese energy companies, Ukrainian energy companies. So on January 21st, I will be filing articles of impeachment on Joe Biden.
Wow. Articles of impeachment on Joe Biden on his first full day as president. I'm looking at Hunter Biden right now, so we're talking about Joe. Obviously, we know Hunter's got issues as well. How is that going to work? You are a freshman. You're in the minority. What will happen next? Is this symbolic, or can you really do something about this?
Well, like I said, I'm a big believer in having people in office that are actually willing to do the job. And I can't imagine people in this country being so fearful of a future of a Biden presidency that they may be willing to commit violence like they did in the Capitol here in Washington, D.C. We cannot have that. I do not condone that violence. The American people need hope. They need to know that there are Republicans in Congress that are willing to stand up and fight for them, regardless of being in a minority, regardless of having all odds against us, against me, or against anyone in Congress. We have to hold people accountable. Joe Biden is on record on the phone saying that he would withhold $1 billion of foreign aid if he didn't get his way with these deals with his son, Hunter. And there's an ongoing investigation with Hunter Biden's laptop into being bought and paid for by communist Chinese energy companies. This is a dangerous threat to our country when we have a man that will be holding the power of the presidency, but will so easily and is on record for abusing power.
We're going to play that phone call. I'm going to actually make an arrangement to get it in a moment. But while we do that, I want to ask you, and I'm going to just play devil's advocate for a moment. I'm, with you on Joe Biden. His corruption, well, it looks very corrupt. Let's face it. It hasn't been proven 1,000%, but I think it looks very bad and warrants further investigation, definitely. But you just said a moment ago, you didn't go to Congress for this kind of thing. A lot of us are frustrated. I know a lot of the American people are frustrated about COVID relief, and, there are other pressing matters. What do you say to that? That perhaps, we don't need yet another impeachment right after this one, 3 in a year and a half? Maybe let this one go. Just devil's advocate here.
No, absolutely not. We don't let criminals serve in our offices like president, or even Kamala Harris, who shared the Minnesota Freedom Fund bail link on her social media, asking people to donate money to bail criminals out of jail that attacked small businesses, burned down the city, attacked the police precinct. These people need to be held accountable. Republicans have not been strong enough in doing that. So it's time, if they want to if they want to lower the bar on what impeachment is, then yes, let's roll with it. And the Americans want this to happen. Americans are sick and tired and fed up, fighting for the economy. We need to reopen America. That's how we get our economy back on track.
So we have that phone call, which never received adequate attention from the media. They didn't even try to explain it. They just kind of brushed it aside. But this is Joe Biden talking about, kind of bragging about how he muscled Ukraine into doing what he wanted. It's fascinating. Watch, everybody. This is after he left the vice presidency a few months later.
And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
About a year after he left the vice presidency. And it's so wild. He's basically doing out loud what they accused President Trump of doing behind the scenes. You're new in Congress, and, they got that whole rank and seniority structure there. What are people like Kevin McCarthy? How receptive do you think they'll be to your idea of impeachment of Joe Biden?
Well, I hope Kevin McCarthy leadership and all of my Republican colleagues will be receptive to the will and the needs of the American people. We don't need a man serving in the presidency of the United States that is guilty of committing the crime of abuse of power and is under investigation with Hunter Biden's laptop, his very own son. This is not the direction our country needs to go in, and I hope my Republican colleagues agree with me.
We will be watching very, very closely. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, just how long have you been in Congress now? 10 days? It's been very, very eventful, and sorry again about what happened on the Capitol last week. Very briefly, where were you when it really got bad? What did you do, and where were you?
I was in the chamber, and they were trying to break down the doors. We had heard the gunshots of when the young lady was shot. Very tragic. They were all inside the halls of the Capitol, all around. I'm so grateful to the police, and I just want to send heartfelt prayers to the family of the police officer who died. And just our Capitol Police are wonderful. We're so grateful for them.
Yes, indeed. And the loss of life was tragic. Got to find out, though, how all those people were able to get in the Capitol and why there wasn't better preparation and anticipation of what happened. Again, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Congresswoman from Georgia, Republican. Thank you very much. To be continued. And
thank you, Greg.
You bet. You bet. We'll be right back. Imagine if you worked for the President of the United States. Just talking to him all the time. That's Hogan Gidley, Deputy Press Secretary. And as you can see, the president listens to this guy big time. Hogan Gidley was very impressive in the White House. Then he moved over to the campaign. He is the Trump 2020 National Press Secretary. Hogan Gidley, welcome back to Newsmax. Thanks for being with us. How are you tonight?
Thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it. I'm doing really well.
Your reaction to the impeachment, the ludicrous impeachment that just happened a little while ago.
Yeah, I ran point for the press shop on the first impeachment. We know that was political. We know it was a complete and total hoax. It was a sham. Nancy Pelosi consistently puts politics above the needs of the American people, and you see that here as well. For months, Nancy Pelosi refused to give financial relief to millions of Americans across the country destroyed by the government lockdowns. By her own admission, she did so for political reasons. But within just hours, days after what we saw at the Capitol, she was moving forward with impeachment. So it's very clear her desire is to continue to play politics. That's what this whole thing is about. She's going to try and saddle the Republican Party with this for the next several years and for the midterms. She's going to continue to attack Donald Trump. And what I find so ridiculous is before Donald Trump even took office, the Democrats' goal was clear: to attack the president. They sure did so while he was actually president. And now they're going to try and do so after he's gone. They can't get enough of trying to attack Donald Trump. That's all they are about. Instead of buckling down and focusing on the real needs of real Americans like Donald Trump did in the face of a 94% negative news coverage and an onslaught from Democrats like we'd never seen before, they'd rather play politics with people's lives. And the proof, I think, is absolutely there.
The president spoke a short while ago from the Oval Office. He did not address impeachment as far as we know, but he talked about the overall situation we're in the middle of right now. Let's take a look.
I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement or our great American flag.
He looks like the president we know. There's a lot going on right now, but he looks fine. A couple of things. Number one, are you talking to him about 2024? Because they're trying to cancel him right now, as you know. And actually, before that, what are his plans for Inauguration Day? You have any indication about where he is going to be at noon on the 20th?
I've not spoken with him about his plans for Inauguration Day. I know that he has pledged a peaceful transfer of power, which is exactly what we've been talking about all along, despite the media and the left clamoring for the fact that they wished that he would do something crazy on that day. We told them that wasn't going to be the case, but they ran with that type of stuff anyway. That's what they do. But the video the president just put out, I think, is impactful. It's important for a myriad of reasons. You heard the words he said. I wrote some things down that no supporter of his could ever endorse these actions. They couldn't hurt law enforcement. He called what happened at the Capitol a calamity. He said, and now is the time we need to listen to each other, not silence each other. And I think that's also important. And I hate to say this, but it's true. What Democrats are basically saying is, if you don't agree with us removing the president for the 25th Amendment, if you don't agree with this impeachment, then you do agree with those lawless thugs who attacked our Capitol. And that kind of conflation, I think, of course, it's a disgusting political tactic. As you know, it's disingenuous for sure, but it's also dangerous to the future of this country. The left and the media have combined and colluded to demagogue our side for decades, basically saying, if you don't agree with us, you're somehow subhuman.
Yeah.
That our ideas of socialism and our ideas of communism, that this country is inherently evil, that it's racist. You have to agree with us. And they've always had Hollywood to help them out. They've always had the colleges. They've always had the mainstream media. And now they have big tech.
And they're going after
us under the umbrella of unity, which is a complete and total lie. And it's their definition of which is, if you don't agree with us, you have no place in this country. That type of behavior has to stop. And I'm thankful the president called them out for it. I think 75 million Americans aren't going to stand for it.
Hogan, and they're not just going after politicians. It's regular people, ordinary people.
Yes.
Which is very disturbing. You know what this was an opportunity for, or who it was an opportunity for? Joe Biden. As president-elect, he's got a lot of status and clout right now. He could have called off this impeachment nonsense, but he wants it to go forward. As we say goodbye, to be continued, I have those pictures of you with the president. You know him the way very few people do, working for him that closely. Just tell us something about him that might surprise us, if you don't mind, or anything you'd like to share about working for the president.
Look, I think he's one of the toughest people I know. Being able to take the onslaught of the mainstream media attacking him, the left attacking him, the coordinated attacks, the lies about Russia and the like. But also, he is a warm, caring person about other people, about his fellow Americans. Always wondering how my family is doing. When we talked, and I lost my father this last year, he called me into his office to talk about it. Showered me with gifts to give to my stepmother, and said, please tell him your family's in our prayers. That's the kind of man he is. And when he would see someone on television who was struggling, he'd try to reach out to them and give them financial assistance without big fanfare. He just wants to help people out. That's one reason he kind of decided not to stay in the billionaire businessman world and go to help all Americans, regardless of race, religion, color, or creed. And his policies did just that.
A lot of stories about people who were received his generosity over the years with very little fanfare. I know a couple of them. Thank you very much, Hogan Gidley. To be continued from the Trump campaign. When we come back, we will have the president's entire remarks from the Oval Office. Stay with us. These are brand new. Hey, welcome back. Ryan Fournier is one of the most loyal people out there for President Trump. He's the co-chairman of Students for Trump. I follow him on Twitter. He's brilliant. Ryan, how you doing? Listen, we were going to have a great big conversation, you and me, but we have this new breaking news from the president. He just spoke from the Oval Office. We're going to watch it together and react, okay?
Let's do it.
Okay, Ryan, I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this just in from the president speaking from the Oval Office.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the troubling events of the past week. As I have said, the incursion of the U.S. Capitol struck at the very heart of our republic. It angered and appalled millions of Americans across the political spectrum. I want to be very clear. I unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw last week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement. Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men and women of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's most sacred traditions and values. Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement or our great American flag. No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans. If you do any of these things, you are not supporting our movement, you are attacking it, and you are attacking our country. We cannot tolerate it. Tragically, over the course of the past year, made so difficult because of COVID-19, we have seen political violence spiral out of control. We have seen too many riots, too many mobs, too many acts of intimidation and destruction. It must stop. Whether you are on the right or on the left, a Democrat or a Republican, there is never a justification for violence. No excuses, no exceptions. America is a nation of laws. Those who engaged in the attacks last week will be brought to justice. Now I am asking everyone who has ever believed in our agenda to be thinking of ways to ease tensions, calm tempers, and help to promote peace in our country. There has been reporting that additional demonstrations are being planned in the coming days, both here in Washington and across the country. I have been briefed by the U.S. Secret Service on the potential threats. Every American deserves to have their voice heard in a respectful and peaceful way. That is your First Amendment right. But I cannot emphasize that there must be no violence, no law-breaking, and no vandalism of any kind. Everyone must follow our laws and obey the instructions of law enforcement. I have directed federal agencies to use all necessary resources to maintain order. In Washington, D.C., we are bringing in thousands of National Guard members to secure the city and ensure that a transition can occur safely and without incident. Like all of you, I was shocked and deeply saddened by the calamity at the Capitol last week. I want to thank the hundreds of millions of incredible American citizens who have responded to this moment with calm, moderation, and grace. We will get through this challenge just like we always do. I also want to say a few words about the unprecedented assault on free speech we have seen in recent days. These are tense and difficult times. The efforts to censor, cancel, and blacklist our fellow citizens are wrong, and they are dangerous. What is needed now is for us to listen to one another, not to silence one another. All of us can choose by our actions to rise above the rancor and find common ground and shared purpose. We must focus on advancing the interests of the whole nation, delivering the miracle vaccines, defeating the pandemic, rebuilding the economy, protecting our national security, and upholding the rule of law. Today, I am calling on all Americans to overcome the passions of the moment and join together as one American people. Let us choose to move forward united for the good of our families, our communities, and our country. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Beautiful, strong. Ryan Fournier, what did you think?
Just what you said. It was beautiful, strong. He was on point. It was a message of unity. Time for our country to come together and get past the partisanship, despite everything that's happened. We've dealt with this for the last 4 years, Greg. We've dealt with Democrats mercilessly crushing this president, his family, and his supporters every single day. And if they want unity, drop the impeachment gambit, drop the 25th Amendment gambit, let this man move from the White House peacefully, let him have his movement. Let's work together. Let's work together as a movement. Let's unite this country, and let's work to make this country greater than it's ever been before.
Great summary. And check out Ryan on Twitter, Ryan A. Fournier. He did say, think of ways. He called on us to think of ways to ease tensions and calm tempers. Speaking of Twitter, Ryan, on social media, you know what I've done lately? Reached out to some of the haters. Like, hey, just maybe we could have a different type of conversation. We can still mix it up on social media. But I chose 2 or 3 enemies, and I'm going to try to make peace. But I think we should start thinking of some ways. I love what he just said, and I happen to be in sync with that very much. What do you think, 100%. Ryan? And then we'll have to say goodbye.
Well, Jim Acosta followed me the other day, and never in my life did I ever think about reaching out to Jim Acosta, but I think I may be doing it sooner or later. I think the tensions are too high, and I think we need to come back together as a country, listen to President Trump's message, and move forward as a nation.
Love it, Ryan. Say hi to Jim. He's quite a character, that guy. Ryan Fournier, we appreciate it. Co-chairman of Students for Trump. To be continued, sir, and we'll be right back.